Here's the lesson for section 6.6, determining the equation of a line given 2 points. Before we start this lesson, let me just quickly review what the equation of a line is. So hopefully you remember the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, okay? Where the m value is the slope of the line and the b value is the y-intercept of the line. And remember, when you find the equation of a line, that equation will define all of the points that make up the line. And remember, every point on a line has an x and a y coordinate. And every point on the line, their x and y coordinates will satisfy the equation of the line. Okay, that's why we have an x and a y in the equation of a line. Before we start today's lesson, where we determine the equation of a line when we're given 2 points, what I want you to do, what we're going to do first is just review what we did yesterday, where we find the equation of a line when I give you the slope and a point on the line. So the first 3 parts that we're going to do here I'll review. The first part, part A, find the equation of a line with a slope of 3 over 5. Remember, the slope is the m value that passes through the point B, negative 5, 4. Remember, every point on the line has an x and a y coordinate. I want to be able to write the equation of the line in the form y equals mx plus b. In order to write the final equation of a line, I need 2 things. I need the slope and the y-intercept. Unfortunately, the question doesn't give me both of those pieces of information. It only gives me the slope and a point on the line. So it gives me an m, x, and a y value. If I plug all 3 of those values into my equation, y equals mx plus b, plug those in for mx and y, the only unknown variable will be the y-intercept, the b value. So I could solve for that. So let's do that. So the y-coordinate of the point on the line is 4. The slope of the line is 3 over 5. The x-coordinate of the point on the line is negative 5. I'm going to write that as negative 5 over 1 to help with the multiplication in the next step. Plus b, we don't know b, but we can solve for that because that's the only variable we don't know. So let's simplify. 3 over 5 times negative 5 over 1, when multiplying fractions, just multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. So 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. 5 times 1 is 5. And I'll simplify that in the next step. So I have 4 equals negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. Move that negative 3 to the other side, and I'll have 4 plus 3 equals my b value. Therefore, b equals 7. So I can write the final equation of my line. Whenever you write the final equation of your line, always plug in for m and b. So y equals 3 over 5x plus 7. So once again, final equation, only plug in for m and b because this equation has to define all of the points that make up the line. That's why we don't plug in for x and y. So like you could use this equation to determine the y value for any x value on the line. Okay, so let's do part B. Let's find the equation of a line that is parallel to the line y equals 2x minus 7 and passes through the point 1, negative 3. So you have to remember a couple things for this question. You have to remember what parallel lines have in common. And hopefully remember that parallel lines have identical slopes. So if it's parallel to the line y equals 2x minus 7, that means it has the same slope as that line. And the slope of that line is 2. So we know the slope of our line is 2. It doesn't necessarily have the same y-intercept as that line. All we know is that it's parallel. So that means it's got the same slope. What else do we know about our line? We know that it goes to the point 1, negative 3. So we know a point on the line. We know every point has an x and a y coordinate. So I have an x and a y value as well. So what I can do, in order to write the equation of my line, I need the slope and the y-intercept. I've only got the slope, but I could plug in for y, m, and x into my equation and then solve for the y-intercept. So let's do that. The y-coordinate is negative 3. The slope is 2. The x-coordinate is 1. And then we'll solve for the unknown b value. So negative 3 equals 2 times 1 is 2. Plus b, move the 2 to the other side of the equation. It'll become a minus 2. Negative 3 minus 2 equals b. Therefore, b is negative 5. So therefore, the equation of my line, you plug in for m and b only. So y equals 2x minus 5. And that's the equation of my line that is parallel to y equals 2x minus 7 and goes through the point 1, negative 3. Okay. Last question we'll do for the warm-up. Find a line that is perpendicular to the line 2x minus y plus 4 equals 0 and passes through the point negative 2, 5. Okay, so I know a point on the line, so I know an xy. Now I know that it's perpendicular to this line here. I know it's perpendicular to that line. Hopefully you remember that perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals of each other, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But before I can figure out what the slope of a line perpendicular to this one is, I need to figure out what is the slope of this line. In order to figure out the slope of a line, it needs to be in the form y equals mx plus b. That way you can easily pick out the m value and be able to tell what the slope is. This line is in standard form right now, so I need to rearrange it. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to rearrange this equation, 2x minus y plus 4 equals 0, into the form y equals mx plus b. So I need to isolate y, and then on the other side of the equation have the term with the x plus the constant term. So I'm going to isolate the y. I know I'm going to need to isolate positive y, so I'm just going to move that negative y to the other side. So I have 2x plus 4 equals y. If 2x plus 4 equals y, then y must equal 2x plus 4, and now this equation has been rearranged into the form y equals mx plus b. So what's the slope of this line? The slope of this line is this value right here. The slope is 2. So the slope is 2. Or I might write that as 2 over 1 to make the next step easier. If the slope is 2 over 1, I know that the perpendicular slope, there's a sign for perpendicular slope, is equal to the negative reciprocal of that. And that means I must flip the fraction. So instead of 2 over 1, it's going to become 1 over 2. And I must change the sign. Since 2 over 1 is positive, I must make 1 over 2 negative. So this is the slope of a line perpendicular to y equals 2x plus 4. So I now have the slope of my perpendicular line. I have a point on the perpendicular line. It gave that to me in the question, point negative 2, 5. I think it was negative 2, 5 and not negative 5. Yeah, it was negative 2, 5. So now what I can do, I have a slope, I have a point, I can solve for the y-intercept. So I want to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. I know a y-coordinate, it's 5. I know the slope, it's negative 1 over 2. I know an x-coordinate, it's negative 2. I'll write that as negative 2 over 1 to help for the next step when I multiply. Plus, I don't know the y-intercept, I need to solve for that. So 5 equals negative 1 times negative 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Move the 1 to the other side. 5 minus 1 equals b. Therefore, b equals 4. So the equation of my line is y equals negative 1 over 2x plus 4. And there we go. There's our final equation. Just one more reminder is make sure when you write your final equation, you're using the perpendicular slope. You're using the slope of the line that's perpendicular to 2x minus y plus 4. You're not using the slope of 2x minus y plus 4 equals 0. You're using the slope of the line perpendicular to that because that's what it asks us to find. It asks us to find the equation of the line that is perpendicular to it. So we use the perpendicular slope. Okay? Okay. So now let's move on to today's lesson. So today's lesson is going to be very similar to the last lesson, but there's going to be kind of one extra step involved in it. Okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to find the equation of a line if we're given 2 points on the line. And it's possible to write the equation of a line if you're only given 2 points, because if you think about it, if I'm given 2 points, there is only one line that goes through these 2 points. There's only one possible line that goes through these 2 points. Okay? So I could find the equation of that line. So let's do that. What do you need to write the equation of a line? Well, we've talked about that. You need the slope and the y-intercept. So you need the m and the b value. The slope is the m value. The y-intercept is the b value. If you're not given the slope of a line, how can you find it? Well, if I'm given 2 points on a line, remember your first point, point 1, would be your first x-coordinate and your first y-coordinate, and your second point on the line would be your second x-coordinate and your second y-coordinate. And you can find the slope of the line connecting those 2 points using the formula second y-coordinate minus first y-coordinate divided by second x-coordinate divided by first x-coordinate. So the change in the y values divided by the change in the x values. And we've used this formula previously in this chapter. How could we find the y-intercept? Well, if you've got the slope, and you have 2 points on the line, you really only need one of them. Okay, you've got 2 points on the line, you only need one of them. You can use the slope m and a point on the line. Either point, they'll both get you the same answer, to solve for b. To solve for the y-intercept b in the equation y equals mx plus b, of course. So you plug in for your m, x, and y, and then you solve for b. So let's try this. Determine the equation of a line that passes through the points m and n. So step number 1, we have to calculate the slope. So we have 2 points. It doesn't matter which one is your first point and which one is your second point. You'll calculate the same point, the same slope either way. But I'll make m my first point. So point 1 is for -3. So that's my first x coordinate and my first y coordinate. My second point is point n, which is 2, 5. So that's my second x coordinate and my second y coordinate. Let's plug that into the formula. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And let's plug everything in. Y2 minus y1, 5 minus -3 over x2 minus x1, 2 minus 4. 5 minus -3, subtracting a negative means adding, so 5 plus 3 is 8. 2 minus 4 is -2. I'll continue up here. 8 divided by -2 is -4. Okay, so now that I have my slope, now what I need to do, so remember I need 2 things to write the equation of a line, slope and y-intercept. Whoops, I didn't mean to pop that open. So you need slope and y-intercept. I have the slope, let's find the y-intercept. So in order to find the y-intercept, I need to plug in for all other values except for b into my equation so that I can solve for b, because remember b is your y-intercept. So I have the slope, I just solved for my slope, I found out my slope is -4. And now to plug in for x and y, remember x and y stand for all of the coordinates that make up the line. I have 2 points on the line, so you can choose either one. Either one will give you, they'll both give you the same answer. I'll choose the second point, so I'll choose point n. So the point I'm going to use is 2, 5. And remember that's an x and a y coordinate. So let's plug everything in we know. So the y coordinate is 5, our slope is -4, the x coordinate is 2, plus our unknown y-intercept, so our unknown b value. And then let's solve for b. -4 times 2 is -8. Isolate the b by moving the -8 to the other side, it'll become a +8. So 5 plus 8 equals b, therefore b is 13. So now I need to write the equation of my line using the slope and the y-intercept, because remember in your final equation, you only plug in for your m and your b value. So my m value is -4, my b value is 13, therefore my final equation in y equals mx plus b form is y equals -4x plus 13. And there's my final equation. That's not a very nice looking 3, I'll rewrite that. Much better. Okay, example 2. Determine the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points. Okay, so we're going to have to do the same steps for this one. Step number 1, you're going to need to calculate the slope. Because remember, you need 2 things to write the equation of a line. You need the slope, the m value, and the y-intercept, the b value. So let's start by figuring out the slope. I've got 2 points. My first point, I'll use point P as my first point, so 0, 4. So that's my x1, y1, my first x value, my first y value. And then point 2 is 7, 0. So my second x coordinate and my second y coordinate. Let's plug all of that into our formula, y equals mx plus b. Equation for slope. We're finding slope right now. So we need to plug that into our formula for slope. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And what we get, y2 minus y1 is 0 minus 4 over x2 minus x1, 7 minus 0. What I get is -4 over 7. And that can't be simplified any further, so that is my slope of the line. Next thing I have to do, now I need to figure out what the y-intercept is. You could do this the same way as last question, but in this case, actually, one of the points it gives you is actually the y-intercept. It gives you the y-intercept in the question. This point, 0, 4, is actually the y-intercept. Whenever it gives you the y value when x value is 0, that is the y-intercept. So that point it gave you is 0, 4. That point is roughly right about there, so that's the point where it crosses the y-axis. So if we go ahead and solve for the y-intercept, we should get a value of 4. So we'll go ahead and do that. But I just wanted to let you know, in this case, if it gives you if it gives you the y-intercept as one of the points, you wouldn't actually have to solve for it. But let's do that anyway. So in order to solve for the y-intercept, I need to plug in for y, m, and x to solve for the b value. So I need to use my slope. So my slope is negative 4 over 7, and I need to use a point. I'll use my first point, 0, 4. So that point is my x and my y. So let's plug that in. So the y coordinate was 4, the slope is negative 4 over 7, the x coordinate is 0 plus b. Negative 4 over 7 times 0, well, anything times 0 is 0. So 4 equals b, so my b value is 4. So now I can write the equation of my line using my slope and my y-intercept. So the equation of the line is y equals negative 4 over 7x plus 4. And that's the equation of the line. Okay, 2 more examples, and then we'll do a word problem. So I'll do these next couple maybe a bit quicker. I won't explain the steps as much. We'll just get some practice. If you want, you can pause the video right now and try it yourself first, and then check and make sure you did it right as I go through it. Okay, so if you're given 2 points on the line, the first thing you need is the slope of the line. So you need to figure out the slope using the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter which point is your first point and which point is your second point. You'll get the same slope either way. So I'll make point A my first point, so that's my x1, y1. I'll make point B my second point, so that's my x2, y2. Plug everything into your equation, and you figure out that your y2 minus y1 is 11 minus 2, divided by your x2 minus x1, 8 minus negative 4. So your slope is equal to 9 over 12, which simplifies to, well, 3 goes into both 9 and 12. It goes into 9 3 times. It goes into 12 4 times. So that simplifies to 3 over 4. Now you need the y-intercept. So you have the slope. You have 2 points on the line. You can choose either one. Doesn't matter. I'll just choose the first one because you need an x and a y value in order to plug into your equation y equals mx plus b in order to solve for the b value. So the point I'm going to use is the first point, negative 4, 2, so that's my x and my y. We'll plug in everything we know into the equation y equals mx plus b and solve for the b value. So the y coordinate is 2, my slope is 3 over 4, my x value is negative 4. I'll write that as negative 4 over 1 to make the next step easier when I multiply them, plus my unknown b value. Let's multiply those fractions. So multiply the numerators. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. 4 times 1 is 4. Now let's simplify. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. Now move that negative 3 to the other side. It becomes a plus 3. So my b value is equal to 5. Now you can write the equation of your line using your slope and your y-intercept. The equation of the line is y equals 3 over 4x plus 5. Okay, last example we'll do like this. Once again, find the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points, A and B. So I'm going to go through this one even quicker this time. So you're going to need the slope and the y-intercept. I'll figure out my slope firstly by using the formula y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. That's how you find the slope when you're given 2 points on a line. So it doesn't matter which point is your first point and which point is your second point. I'll make this one my first point, so that's my x1, y1. And my second point, I'll make my x2, y2. Remember, every point has an x and a y coordinate. You just have to determine which one is going to be your first one. That one gets x1, y1. figure out which one is going to be your second one, and then give that x2 and y2. And once again, it doesn't matter which one is your first one, which one is your second one. Okay, so let's plug everything in. So 5 minus negative 4 divided by 5 minus 2. And I get, so subtracting a negative means add. So 5 plus 4 is 9. 5 minus 2 is 3. I get 9 over 3, which is equal to 3. Now I'm going to need my y-intercept. So what I'm going to need to do, I'm going to need to plug in values for y, m, and x into my equation and solve for b. So when I'm plugging in values for y and x, you can choose either of the points on the line. It doesn't matter. I'll use point B, which has an x-coordinate of 5 and a y-coordinate of 5. And I'll use my slope of 3. And then solve for the b value. 3 times 5 is 15. Move the 15 to the other side, it becomes a minus 15. Therefore, b equals negative 10. So the equation of my line, I plug in for m and b, y equals 3x minus 10. Good. There's the equation of my line. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a word problem. So an appliance repair company charges $205 for a repair that takes 3 hours. The same company charges $505 for a repair that takes 8 hours. Determine an equation that represents the cost of a repair based on the number of hours that the repair takes. Okay, so basically in this question, I have two variables. I have cost of a repair, and I have number of hours a repair takes. So those are my two variables, okay? So think of those as your x and your y. So which one is the x, which one is the y? Well, remember, y is your dependent variable, and it tells us your cost depends on the number of hours the repair takes. So cost is our dependent, so that's our y value, and the number of hours is our independent variable, and units of time are always independent variables in this case. So that is our x value. Okay, so if we read the question again, every cost that it gives us is a y value. Okay, so the first cost it gives us, I'm going to call that my first y value. So it's $205 for a repair that takes 3 hours. Remember, the number of hours is the independent variable, so x. So that's my first x value. Okay, so for a 3-hour repair, it costs $205. Then it gives me another set of information for these variables. For a $505 repair, so there's my second y value, it takes 8 hours. Okay, so that's my second x value. So for an 8-hour repair, it costs $505. So I've got 2 points. So yeah, think of these as points. That's why I've labeled them with x1, y1, x2, y2. So I've got 2 points. Think of them as points. My first point, so point 1, is, so my x value is 3, my y value is 205. So that was my x1, y1. And I'm labeling them x and y because x is your independent variable and that's time. Y is my dependent variable, that's cost. So what this tells me is it costs $205 for a 3-hour repair. My second point, the second set of information it gave me, was that for an 8-hour repair, it cost $505. So that's my second x coordinate and my second y coordinate. If I want to, so it tells me to write an equation that represents the cost of a repair based on the number of hours. So if I want to write an equation, I want to write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to need the slope. So let's start off by finding the slope. I'll just do it underneath the 2 points I have here. So remember, slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my slope equals 505 minus 205 over 8 minus 3. So what that gives me, I'll do it up here. I should have done it over on the right side where I had more room, but I'll just draw that little arrow there. So 505 minus 205 is 300 over 5. And that gives me 60. So my slope is 60. Now what I need to do, now I need to find the y-intercept. I can find the y-intercept by plugging in for y, m, and x. I can choose either point to plug in for x and y. I'll choose the first one because it's got smaller values. So the y-coordinate is 205, my slope is 60, and the x-coordinate is 3. Plus my unknown b value that I'm going to solve for. 60 times 3 is 180. Isolate the b by moving the 180 to the other side. It becomes a minus 180. And I get my b value to equal 25. So the equation is y equals 60x plus 25. And if you want, you can write this equation using different variables for cost and hours. Like if you wanted to, you can, I know my dependent variable is cost, so I can replace y with a c, and I can replace my independent variable, which I know stands for number of hours, with h if I wanted to. And I could use this equation. So what is the cost of a repair that takes 7 hours? So cost equals 60 times the number of hours. So if it takes 7 hours, I'll plug in 7 for hours, plus 25. 60 times 7 is 420, plus 25 is equal to 445. So it would cost $445. If the repair costs $385, how many hours does it take? So plug in $385 for the cost and solve for the number of hours. 60 times hours plus 25. Subtract the 25 to the other side. If I subtract that, I'll get 360 equals 60h. I'll continue over here. I'm going to divide that 60 to the other side to isolate the h. I figure out 360 divided by 60 gives me 6. So it would take 6 hours. So it would cost $385 for a 6-hour repair. Okay, so just to consolidate what we did for this lesson, to write the equation of a line, remember you always need two things. You need the slope and the y-intercept. Those are always the two things you need to write the equation of a line. So you need your m and your b value. If you're not given the slope, you can find it if you have 2 points on the line. By using the formula, slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So find the difference in the y-coordinates divided by the difference in the x-coordinates. Okay, so download the worksheet from jensenmath.ca now. Make sure you try it out and let me know if you have any questions.